The room was quiet but full of tension. On the big glass planet called Vera, Earth's ambassador Jake Carter stood among strange, tall aliens. Their skin was blue and shiny. Their eyes were large and bright like stars. In the middle of the room sat Queen Lizara, the leader of the Velath people. She was calm but strong. Her long silver hair flowed over her shoulders like a river of light. Jake had come to this planet to talk peace. Earth and the Velath had fought many small battles before, but now they wanted to stop. Jake was here to make sure both sides could trust each other. He wore his simple Earth uniform and tried to look confident, but inside he felt nervous. Suddenly, a loud whoosh cut through the air. Before anyone could understand what was happening, a sharp arrow flew from the shadows. It was fast and silent. The arrow was tipped with a deadly poison that could kill in minutes. It was meant for Queen Lizara. Jake saw the arrow coming. His heart stopped for a moment. Without thinking, he jumped forward, raising his arm to protect the queen. The arrow hit Jake's arm with a sickening thud. Pain exploded through his body. People gasped. The arrow had pierced his skin, and the poison was inside him now. Jake fell to the floor but stayed awake. He looked up at the queen. Her eyes were wide with shock. She had never seen a human risk their life for her before. "Get the healer," she shouted in her strong voice. The room became chaotic. Velath guards rushed forward. Scientists and doctors surrounded Jake. They started to work quickly, using strange machines and glowing liquids to try to stop the poison. Jake felt his arm burning and his head spinning. But he also felt something strange, a quiet strength deep inside him. Humans had a way to survive things others could not. He was going to hold on. Queen Lizara sat beside him, watching carefully. "You saved my life," she said softly, her voice full of respect, and something else Jake couldn't understand yet. Jake managed a weak smile. "I just did what any person would do." But in the Velath culture, saving the queen was not just a kind act. It was a bond stronger than any treaty or promise. It was a sacred debt that changed everything. The queen's advisors whispered among themselves. They looked at Jake with new eyes full of surprise and curiosity. Jake didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure. His life had just changed forever. Jake lay on a soft, glowing bed inside the queen's palace. The doctors worked day and night. The poison was strong, but Jake's body fought back harder. Queen Lizara sat beside him almost all the time, watching his every breath. The room was full of quiet sounds, machines humming, quiet whispers, and the queen's soft footsteps. After days of waiting, the queen finally spoke. "Jake, you have saved my life. You jumped in front of the poisoned arrow. In our culture, this creates a sacred debt." Jake opened his eyes slowly. He was tired but alert. "Sacred debt?" he asked. Lizara nodded. "Yes. When someone saves the life of a Velath leader, the Velath law says that the saved person must become bound to the leader forever. This bond is called the life bond. It is more than friendship or loyalty. It means you belong to me, and I belong to you." Jake's heart beat faster. "What does that mean exactly?" he asked carefully. Lizara looked serious. "It means you must marry me. It is the only way to honor the bond and keep peace between our people." Jake blinked. "Marry you? But we barely know each other. I'm from Earth. You're an alien queen." The queen smiled softly. "I understand this is hard, but it is not just tradition, it is survival. Our enemies want to see us divided. The life bond makes us strong." Jake looked away. He thought about his life back on Earth, his friends, his family. Could he really give all that up for an alien queen he just met? He felt the poison still in his arm, burning. He had no choice. His life was connected to Lizara's now. As the days passed, Jake learned about the Queen's world. She explained Velath laws, their history, and why the life bond was sacred. For centuries, it had kept their empire united during war and chaos. Jake saw that Lizara was not just a ruler. She was a protector of her people. Her strength and wisdom impressed him more every day. But not everyone in the palace agreed with the marriage. Some advisors whispered behind their hands, saying the human had no place beside the queen. Others feared Earth's power. Jake could feel their eyes on him, full of doubt and challenge. Still, Lizara stood by him. "We face enemies, both outside and inside this palace," she said. "But together, we are stronger." Jake's respect for her grew. He realized this was bigger than a simple marriage. It was about trust, courage, and hope for a new future. He didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was clear: his life was no longer his own. It belonged to the queen, the Velaf people, and maybe to something greater than both worlds. Jake woke up early in the alien palace. The morning light filtered through tall windows, casting strange shadows on the walls. He looked around and felt the weight of his new reality. He was no longer just Earth's ambassador. He was tied forever to Queen Lizara and her people. His arm still hurt from the poisoned arrow, but the pain was less now. The doctors had done their best, but the poison's effects were slow and strange. Sometimes Jake felt weak. Other times, his body felt stronger than ever. Today, Lizara had asked him to join her in a meeting with her advisors. Jake wanted to learn more about the Velaf world, their ways, their rules, and what was expected of him. He followed Lizara through long halls filled with glowing plants and humming machines. Her blue skin shone softly in the light. Jake noticed how the palace mixed ancient traditions and advanced technology. In the large room, many Velaf leaders waited. Their faces showed respect, but also curiosity and doubt. Jake knew he had to prove himself, but he did not yet understand their ways. The meeting started. The advisors spoke in their language, and a small translator device helped Jake understand. They talked about the importance of the life bond, the queen's health, and the growing dangers from rival clans. Jake tried to join the conversation, but he found it difficult. The Velaf culture was very different from Earth's. They valued rituals, honor, and loyalty more than anything. Their words were filled with meaning Jake did not always grasp. One advisor said, "The life bond is not just a contract. It is a sacred promise. Our people will watch Jake closely. He must show respect to the Velaf ways." Jake nodded, feeling the pressure. He realized his usual way of talking and thinking would not work here. He needed to learn fast. After the meeting, Lizara took Jake to a quiet garden. Strange flowers with glowing petals surrounded them. "You are brave, Jake," she said, "but this world is not easy. Our ways can seem strange, even unfair, but they keep us alive." Jake looked at her, tired but determined. "I want to understand. I want to help, but I need you to teach me." Lizara smiled. "I will. We will learn from each other. This is a new beginning for both of us." As days passed, Jake struggled with Velaf customs. He had to learn to bow properly, speak with respect, and understand silent signals. The palace felt like a puzzle he had to solve. At night, he missed Earth. He missed his old life. But he also felt something new. A connection growing between him and Lizara, and a hope that together, they could change the future. Days passed, and Jake's arm still ached from the poisoned arrow. The pain was sharp, and sometimes it felt like fire running through his veins. The doctors were working hard, but the poison was strange, unlike anything Earth had seen before. Queen Lizara stayed close. She was calm but worried. "This poison is not just a weapon," she explained one evening. "It is made from a rare toxin found only in the deepest caves of Vera. It attacks the nervous system slowly. Without the right antidote, it will take your life." Jake swallowed hard. "Is there an antidote?" Lizara nodded. "Yes, but it is very special. Only a bond like ours can create the cure. Your body and mind must connect for the antidote to work." Jake frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means we must share a life bond, "Not just in name," she said. "Your body must accept my blood to activate the cure." Jake was surprised. The Queen's words were serious. He knew the life bond was more than a ceremony. It was a real, living connection. But this was more than he expected. Doctors brought a strange device. It looked like a small, glowing crystal. Lizara held it gently and touched Jake's arm. A soft light spread from the crystal and wrapped around their hands. Jake felt warmth moving from Lizara's skin into his own. At the same time, he felt a strange power, a connection he could not explain. Hours passed. The poison's burn slowly faded, his pain lessened, and his strength began to return. Lizara watched him closely. "You are strong, Jake. Earth humans are tougher than I thought." Jake smiled weakly. "Thanks to you, I'm still here." As the cure worked, Jake realized how close they had become. The bond was no longer just a rule of the Velath. It was real and alive between them. But with this bond came new challenges. Some of the Queen's advisors whispered that Jake's human blood might change Lizara. Others feared the bond would give Earth too much power. Jake felt their eyes on him. He was a stranger in a strange land, but now his life and the Queen's were tied together by something no one could break. That night, Jake and Lizara sat together on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. Stars sparkled above like diamonds. "Thank you for saving me," Jake said quietly. Lizara looked at him, her eyes shining. "And thank you for saving me." For the first time, Jake believed they might not just survive. They might build something new. The palace felt colder that morning, even though the sun shone bright outside. Jake sensed something wrong. The faces around him were polite but tense. Whispers followed him wherever he went. Queen Lizara's advisors were divided. Some trusted Jake, seeing his bravery and strength. But others feared him, a human in their world, bound to the Queen by an ancient law. They saw him as a threat. One advisor, Karen, was the most vocal. He did not hide his dislike. "The life bond is a sacred tradition," he said in a meeting. "But a human is not Velath. How can we be sure Jake will be loyal? What if he betrays us?" Jake stood tall. "I risked my life to save the Queen. I have no reason to betray her or her people." Lizara's voice was calm but firm. "Jake is my life bond. He is my partner. I trust him." But Karen's words spread through the palace like fire. Secret meetings were held. Plans formed in dark rooms. Jake was unaware at first. Then strange things began happening. His room was searched. Messages he sent were delayed. Guards watched him closely. One night, Jake overheard a whisper outside his door. "If the human stays, the Queen will fall. We must act soon." Jake's heart pounded. Someone wanted to harm Lizara. Or him. He told Lizara at once. Her eyes darkened with worry. "Our enemies are close. They want to break us." Together, they began planning. Jake used his human training in security and strategy. He worked with loyal guards to protect the Queen and himself. At the same time, Jake studied the palace's secrets. He learned about hidden passages and ancient defenses. One evening, as Jake walked the halls, a shadow moved quickly. A figure lunged at him with a knife. Jake caught the attacker's arm and pushed him away. It was one of the palace guards, someone he trusted. "Why?" Jake asked, shocked. The guard spat. "You don't belong here. The Queen will be better without you." Jake's jaw tightened. The fight for the Queen's life was not just from outside enemies. It was inside the palace walls. Lizara stood by Jake's side. "We will face this together," she said. Jake nodded. "I won't let anyone hurt you, or this bond." The palace became a battleground of trust and betrayal. But through it all, Jake and Lizara grew stronger. Their enemies wanted to divide them, but their bond held firm. Jake knew the fight was only beginning. But for the first time, he felt he was not alone. The palace was quiet after the attack, but the threat was far from over. Jake knew that the Velath enemies would try again. This time, he would be ready. He sat with Queen Lysara and her trusted guards in the strategy room. The walls were covered with holographic maps of Veyra, showing forests, mountains, and enemy locations. Jake studied the maps carefully. "Your people have great technology," he said, "but sometimes tradition slows you down. Let me help." Lysara nodded. "Show me what you can do." Jake explained his plan. He would combine Earth's simple but effective tools with Veylath technology. He suggested creating new defenses, faster sensors, stronger shields, and traps to catch intruders before they reached the palace. The Veylath advisors listened carefully. Some were skeptical, but Lysara trusted Jake's instincts. Together, they worked day and night. Jake taught the Veylath engineers how to build Earth-style traps, hidden pits, noise alarms, and smoke screens. They added powerful sensors that could detect movement from miles away. Slowly, the palace became a fortress unlike any before. Guards trained with new weapons that Jake helped design. The queen's safety improved. One night, as Jake tested a new sensor near the palace wall, the alarm suddenly rang. A group of enemy scouts tried to sneak in. Jake and the guards moved quickly. Using the new traps and alarms, they caught the intruders without bloodshed. The enemies were surprised by the clever defenses. Lysara smiled proudly. "You have saved many lives today." Jake shrugged. "Just using what I know." But his success did more than protect the queen. It showed the Veylath people that humans were not weak or simple. Jake's bravery and cleverness earned him respect. Even Karen, the harsh advisor, began to see Jake differently. He nodded during meetings, no longer speaking against him. Jake also learned from the Veylath. Their advanced technology amazed him. Their energy shields, fast communication, and healing machines were far beyond Earth's. Together, Jake and Lysara created a new future. It was a blend of Earth's creativity and Veylath's strength. But the enemies had not given up. Jake knew the fight for the queen and her empire was only beginning. Still, he felt ready. For the first time since arriving on Veyra, Jake smiled with hope. He was no longer just a guest. He was a partner, a protector, and maybe something more. The days grew longer, and so did the bond between Jake and Queen Lysara. What began as an obligation, a forced alliance, slowly turned into something deeper. They spent many hours together, discussing their worlds, hopes, and fears. Jake learned about the Veylath history, their wars, their struggles, and their dreams for peace. Lysara listened to stories from Earth about courage, failure, and the power of hope. One afternoon, they walked through the palace gardens, where glowing flowers lit their path in soft blue and green light. Jake noticed Lysara's quiet smile and the way her eyes reflected the stars. "Do you think this bond can change who we are?" Jake asked. Lysara paused. "It has already changed me. You see me as a leader, not just a queen. You trust me when others doubt. That means more than you know." Jake felt a warmth in his chest. "I never wanted this to happen. But now, I don't want to lose it." Their moments were sometimes interrupted by palace duties and the ever-present threat from enemies. But each time they faced danger together, their trust grew stronger. One evening, a message arrived, a threat from a rival Veylath clan. They planned to attack the palace during the upcoming festival, when the guards would be fewer and celebrations loud. Lysara and Jake worked quickly to prepare. They set new defenses and trained guards. But beyond the walls, they knew the real strength was their unity. "Whatever happens," Lysara said, "we face it as one." Jake nodded. Together. As the festival began, the palace was alive with music, color, and laughter. But beneath the joy, Jake and Lysara watched, ready. The rival clan struck, but they were met by the strongest defense the palace had ever seen. Jake's traps and the queen's warriors fought side by side. In the heat of battle, Lysara called Jake's name. He ran to her side, blocking a deadly strike meant for her. Their bond was no longer just a law or a ritual. It was a promise to protect each other. When the fight ended, the rival clan retreated. The palace was safe. Jake and Lizara stood together, breathing heavily but unbroken. "We are stronger than I imagined," Jake said. Lizara smiled, her hand finding his. "Stronger because of this bond, not despite it." In that moment, Jake realized the life bond was more than a duty. It was a connection of hearts and souls. He was no longer just a human in an alien world. He was part of something bigger, a new family, a new hope. The palace was filled with excitement and tension. The day had come for Jake to prove himself worthy of becoming Queen Lizara's consort. According to Velath tradition, before marriage, the life bond partner must complete 3 trials. These tests were designed to show strength, honor, and wisdom. Jake stood in the grand hall, surrounded by the queen's people. The walls were decorated with glowing symbols, and the air buzzed with energy. He could feel hundreds of eyes on him, some filled with hope, others with doubt. Lizara stood beside him, her calm presence giving him courage. "Remember, Jake," she said softly, "these trials are not just for the palace. They are for our people to see that you are worthy." Jake nodded. "I understand." The first trial was the trial of strength. Jake was led to a large arena where he faced the palace's strongest warriors. The test was not just about fighting, but about holding his ground and showing courage. The warriors attacked with swift moves and powerful strikes. Jake used his human training, combined with quick thinking. He dodged and blocked, using the environment to his advantage. After a long fight, he stood unbroken. The crowd murmured in surprise and respect. Next came the trial of honor. This test was about truth and fairness. Jake was asked to solve a dispute between 2 Velath families. The conflict was old and deep, filled with anger and hurt. Jake listened carefully to both sides. He used his skills as a diplomat to find a solution that respected both families' feelings and traditions. His words calmed the tension, and slowly, the 2 families agreed to peace. The people watching began to whisper, Jake was more than just a strong fighter. He was a peacemaker. The final trial was the trial of wisdom. Jake entered a dark chamber filled with puzzles and ancient Velath symbols. He had to solve riddles and unlock doors using logic and knowledge. At times, the puzzles seemed impossible, but Jake stayed calm and focused. He remembered what Lizara had taught him about Velath culture and combined it with his own experience. After hours, he solved the final riddle. A hidden door opened, and the crowd outside cheered. Lizara smiled proudly. "You have done what many could not." Jake was exhausted but happy. The trials had tested everything about him, his body, mind, and heart. That night, in a quiet moment, Lizara took Jake's hand. "You are ready," she said, "not just for me, but for all of Velath." Jake looked into her eyes and saw trust and hope. He felt ready too. The wedding was near, but Jake knew the real journey was just beginning. The wedding was only days away. The palace buzzed with preparations, decorations, and guests from across the Velath Empire. Jake felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He was ready to take his place beside Queen Lizara, not just as her life bond, but as her partner. But not everyone wanted to see the marriage happen. Late one night, while the palace was quiet, Jake heard soft footsteps outside his room. He moved silently to the door and listened. Voices whispered in the shadows. "We must stop the wedding," one voice hissed. "If the human marries the queen, the empire will fall." Jake's heart pounded. He recognized the voice. It belonged to Karen, the advisor who had always opposed him. Suddenly, a shadow moved. Jake grabbed a nearby chair and held it ready. The door opened, and a masked figure rushed in, wielding a sharp blade aimed at Lizara's life. Jake reacted without thinking. He jumped in front of the queen's door just as the blade struck. Pain exploded in his side, but he caught the attacker's arm and twisted it hard. The mask fell away to reveal one of Lizara's trusted guards, someone who had pretended to be loyal. Betrayal cut deeper than the blade. Lizara rushed to Jake's side, her eyes wide with shock and fear. "Why?" she asked the guard, her voice shaking. The guard spat. "We want the Empire free from human influence. The Queen is weak for trusting him." Jake gritted his teeth. "You're weak for betraying your own people." The palace erupted in chaos. Guards rushed in, capturing the traitor and others who had planned the attack. Lizara stood tall, her voice clear and strong. "This betrayal will not break us. It only makes our bond stronger." Jake nodded, despite the pain. He looked at Lizara and saw determination and trust shining in her eyes. The people of the palace began to see Jake not just as a human outsider, but as a true partner in the Queen's fight for her people. The attack had almost ended everything, but it had also proven something important. Jake and Lizara were not alone. Together, they were a force the Empire had never seen before. As the days passed, the wounds healed, and the wedding drew near. Jake knew the road ahead would still be hard, but he no longer feared it. He was ready to stand beside the Queen as her consort, protector, and equal. The Grand Hall was full of people from many planets. They had come to make peace and build a strong alliance. Bright lights shone from the ceiling, and strange music played softly in the background. But in one quiet corner of the palace, a small meeting was about to happen, one that no one expected. Marcus, a human soldier, stood tall and alert. He wore his uniform with pride. He had been chosen to be the personal guard for Princess Lyra. She was from the planet Zilara, a beautiful world far from Earth. The Zilarans were known for their wisdom and peace, but also for being very private. Lyra, their young princess, was especially shy and quiet. She rarely spoke to anyone outside her close family. Marcus had heard many stories about the princess. They said she never smiled in public and stayed away from large groups. Some thought she was cold, but Marcus wondered if there was more to her. Today, he would meet her for the first time. The doors to the princess's chamber opened slowly. Lyra stepped out. She was unlike any person Marcus had ever seen. Her skin was smooth and light blue, her eyes deep and shining like stars. Her long silver hair flowed behind her like a gentle river. She wore a simple dress that shimmered in the light, but she moved carefully, as if afraid of drawing too much attention. Marcus bowed slightly. "Princess Lyra, I am honored to be your guard." Lyra's lips moved, but her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "Thank you, Marcus." She looked at him for a moment, then quickly turned away. Marcus noticed how she kept her hands close to her body, never making strong gestures. She seemed shy, but there was a quiet strength in her eyes. As they walked through the palace halls, Marcus tried to start a conversation. "Do you like your home, princess?" Lyra paused. "Zilara is peaceful. I like it." She said no more, but Marcus didn't mind. Sometimes silence spoke louder than words. Suddenly, a loud noise echoed from the main hall. People rushed past them in a hurry. Marcus tightened his grip on his weapon, ready to protect the princess. Lyra looked scared, but she trusted Marcus and stayed close. They reached a balcony overlooking the city below. The sun was setting, casting orange and pink light over the tall buildings and green trees. It was beautiful. Lyra finally spoke again, her voice still soft but clear. "I don't like all this noise. It makes me nervous." Marcus smiled gently. "I understand. I will protect you. You don't have to be afraid." For the first time, Lyra smiled back, a small but real smile. Marcus felt a warm feeling in his chest. He realized this quiet princess might be hiding a brave heart behind her silence. The sun disappeared behind the mountains, and the stars began to shine. In that moment, Marcus and Lyra stood together, two very different people, from two very different worlds. But maybe, just maybe, a new friendship was beginning.